All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Unauthorized Caucus. Let me go ahead and pull in our guest here. Special guest, Mr. Ed Martin, is here with us. Actually, it looks on my screen like he might be frozen, but I don't think that he is, so
I'm
hopefully
not
everyone
fro-
can see him.
I'm not frozen where I am. I hope I can see you well, and I'm moving all over the place, but hopefully
Good.
I'll
Oh, well.
unfreeze.
Don't move too much, otherwise you might break the connection. You know, Ed, you bring a lot of energy to the show that you do, the Pro America Report. So we can't have that over here. This is, after all, already tenuous. This isn't so unauthorized anymore now that we've invited the boss to come on and play.
There
So
you go.
you never know. But welcome everyone. Let me go ahead and remind you real quick to like, share, and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the big red button and then turn on the notification bell. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, hit the share button. Send this link to a friend here over the lunch hour. Let them know you're watching the Unauthorized Caucus. We're going to dive into a couple issues that you should talk about with them today, and these are the conversations conservatives need to be having. So, yeah, as you all can assume here from the screen, my illustrious co-host, Mr. Andrew Muller, is actually out this week. As you'll all remember, he works for the Pillar Foundation here in St. Louis, Homeschool Resource Center. They are on spring break, so is he. So I asked Ed to step in and see if he would come over and talk to us and kind of get some of the headlines because, man, there's a
Yeah.
lot that has happened since last Thursday, Ed. We haven't talked about the SVB bank stuff. We haven't talked about
Oh
a host
man.
of things that are going on because it's been since Thursday. So this is the
I'm
first
just I'm
time.
just happy. I gotta say, am I still frozen or am I unfrozen now?
Oh, it looks like you're still frozen on my screen, but odds
Okay.
are that
Well,
you may
I,
not be. I
I
can
just
hear
want to
you.
say I want to say it's taken me. How old am I? 50 something years old to finally get invited on Unauthorized Caucus. It's been going on. It's like a side meeting of all these people that know a lot and are cool, and I hear good things, and I never invited until Andrew was out today, and then Ryan was like, oh shoot. Okay, man. Well, we're really stuck. Get yourself to Skype. So I'm glad to be on. I love what's going on. I really do appreciate the conversations. And as you often say, Ryan, Phyllis used to joke when she saw two or more people gathered talking, and is this an authorized caucus? And
Yep.
some of our best work is when we can be together, especially with like-minded or like-valued, and kind of fight through these things and understand them better. And sometimes that's the best way to actually, and it happens with me and you. I mean, you're a comms professional, so it's kind of what you're about. But you just get a better sense of how to talk about important things in ways that will be positive, affirming, and help people get to the point, not just, hey, you're a moron, you're wrong, which is what happens a lot in places. But
Yeah.
so it's great to be with you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're here. And yeah, like you're actually one of the only ones that would have had the experience of that unauthorized caucus feeling from Phyllis coming over your shoulder and asking if
Yeah,
we
that's
were
right.
approved
That's right.
to be standing around because we've had Joanna and Jordan, and now Andrew, who I know the different ones at different points had met her, but some hadn't, some had, but never had that lovely experience here in the office of having her come up behind you and wonder what's going on and then having to get back to it.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
that's right. That's right.
like I always tell people, we're always talking about stuff like this, like politics, but yeah, there is, and we'll just dive right into it here because I'd love to get your take on a few of these things that are going on because there's some stuff that's starting to come up and the connections are already happening in a way that we couldn't have even talked about Monday or Tuesday of this week. So first of all, let me put out the public service announcement now. I didn't realize, but it's bad when Whoopi Goldberg's about to get canceled. We are no longer allowed to say, Ed, the word gypped, that you're getting gypped on something. Apparently, this is a
Seriously?
slur against the gypsy people because Whoopi Goldberg
Oh,
on The View said that someone was getting gypped and she had to put out an apology video. An apology
wow.
video that I should have said cheated. But old people just say things without thinking sometimes. This is her
Yeah.
excuse. And I'm like, wait, what word are we talking about? Because everyone just blurted out and put it starting with a G. I've always spelled gypped like a 90s kid with a J, I guess. But I'm like, well,
Wow.
what is this word? It's
Well,
gypped.
I
We
thought that
can't say that anymore.
I thought Jip was that thing where you make a short little thing on social media.
That's
Isn't
a
that one of
that.
those things?
Oh no, that's a
I'm
GIF.
just kind of
That is
kidding.
a
I'm
GIF.
kidding.
No.
By the way, aren't there some groups? This is dangerous. I probably will get us in trouble. Aren't there some groups you don't want to be a part of? Like I thought gypsies were. I know that there's an ethnic group that comes like out of Romania. And when as you know, Ryan, I lived in Italy for a while, and there are people that they say, watch out for the gypsies that will come towards you and try to pick your pocket. And that's like but I thought I thought there was like like being in a gang. or being in what's the one of the Hispanic gangs. Like, well, you don't want to be in that gang. I thought gypsy was a negative term already. It's not.
Apparently, first of all, let me tell you this, Ed. You and I don't get to decide these things because we're not leftists. We're not Marxists, so we can't make these calls. So that's the problem. It's just you and me. It's not actually that gypsies are good or bad. It's that you and I can't decide these things.
I see.
So that's my public service announcement before we dive into some of the rest of this stuff. Whoopi had to apologize, so it must have been bad. She almost got canceled over that. I was expecting some much worse thing when I popped it open.
I just got a text from somebody who said we started a little late and they feel gypped about the last 4 minutes late. So
you should tell that person to go watch Whoopi Goldberg's apology and be careful of their words.
Yeah, John Schlafly, that text, John, is inappropriate. You're going to have to go to training. Diversity.
Re-education on the words. Re-education.
The re-education of John Schlafly, that could be like a docu-series. We could do a series. Anyway, moving on.
It could. It's possible. It's moving on. Well, I tell you what. Here's what we wanted to talk about this week. So there's a couple of things that have collided together. You put some of the strings together, and Ed, I wanted to get your take on this. I know that, and Andrew and I have been starting to go through some bigger topics and hit a 30,000-foot view. Let's talk about Western civilization and culture, what that means. Let's talk about and get into some of these big things. But sometimes there's headlines, and you just have to hit the headline news. But there's more to it that people aren't telling you. Even conservative media hasn't really picked up on yet. And one of those things is a very interesting connection here. Of course, we know two things. The SVB and Signature Bank collapse, and then the subsequent bailout coming in, whatever they want to call it. It is a bailout. The government's coming in and making sure to secure, far and beyond the FDIC guarantee, all of these billions of dollars for big woke corporations. But here's what's happened. We also know about House Oversight Committee really starting to dig in on the whole Joe Biden family connections and all of the profiting that happened off of influence when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States. It's just undeniable how corrupt it looks at a bare minimum, although we're pretty sure it is. But these two things colliding, all of a sudden we start seeing some headlines here. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer actually took a lot of money from Silicon Valley Bank affiliates before the company imploded. So all of a sudden, here come two things together. James Comer going hard and heavy after the Biden crime family and House Oversight, which, man, they're starting to move forward. The Treasury and a few other things I want to touch on. But then also this SVB collapse, which I know you've been talking about on the Pro America Report this week. So here we have these two worlds colliding. Here's my question. This is just all so mind-bogglingly corrupt. On its face, it doesn't even pass the smell test. Like, it's not a partisan thing. For a family to be this tied in to not just world leaders apart from ours, but adversaries, enemies of our state, to be tied in making money off of them, and that man at the head of the family, the patriarch, was the vice president of the United States and is now the president of the United States under questionable circumstances. How can anyone oppose even an investigation? Have you heard anyone out there that's actually has a reason? I know look, people yell about the partisanship.
No, I mean, the problem is, you talk about saying things that people won't say. It's both parties that are in the tank. And so when you say, well, where were the regulators? Of the groups of people who should be held accountable, it feels to me like there's, the institutional investors, the big money, the banks themselves and all. And then there's the depositors, people that actually have a small business or have a banking account, and they happen to live in the area around Silicon Valley Bank. I never heard of that bank. I guess, over the years, probably because the proximity to Silicon Valley, they've got a lot of assets. And then there's the regulators. To me, there's three categories of people who need to be held accountable. The least culpable are depositors who should count on the regulators to do what they say. And there's where we get to the point that you're saying. The regulators aren't actually protecting the depositors. They're not actually protecting the people who need a bank. They're protecting a system. And the system, the regulators are part of the system, as you point out, with campaign contributions and jobs for family members and ways for people that have money to make more money. So I think it's a kind of a great, a terrible, tragic for the depositors. I guess they'll be made whole, but or that's what we're told. You never look. I love this about it too. Biden thought all weekend about how to get out of it. Then they got out of it. We won't hear in 6 weeks when the depositors never got their money. Yet they got to apply for it. They got a this, that, and the other thing, and meanwhile they're losing their businesses. They're losing their homes. I mean, it's a disaster. But the idea that our government is working well when it is so clearly corrupted with a small c. I don't even know or think. I don't know. I think, but I don't know. I don't know that you have pay to play automatically. But you don't have to have pay to play. You just have to have a system that's in favor of managing the money for the wealth for the wealthy, and don't look closely at the, as someone marched through, I think it might have been Schellenberger on a series of tweets, and he got to the end, he said, the real problem here, the start of this problem, is the massive inflation we have and the massive spending we have. And you're flooding the market in such a way that inflation's going up, and then the Fed has to react. Then the Fed changes rates, and then Silicon Valley Bank, which was locked in a structure on their rates that put them underwater, and here we are. So look, the number of examples of our systems being corrupted, it's almost endless in Washington. So when you say, will there be hearings, I say, with respect and encouragement to Republicans, don't get distracted, because I don't think they'll do it. Don't get distracted by some of these shiny objects. I don't care where the Chinese balloon is, right? I just don't care. I care, what's happened with the corruption in the White House. I care where John Podesta's $380 billion with a B slush fund that's being used in the White House to fund green projects with an open end. I care. I was up on Capitol Hill, and one of the members said to me, Ed, all of the appropriations still are happening under an emergency clause. And until there's not an emergency clause change, the executive accepts the money from the budget and appropriations and doesn't have to use it for the line item because it's an emergency. We're still in the COVID emergency. I mean, so it's a mess, Ryan. It's a real mess, and both parties are knee deep into it.
Oh yeah, and actually, I wanted you made a comment about the Fed and printing and the Treasury. This is, and I dropped a couple while you were talking, a couple of links, everyone, down in the comments or in the chat, depending on where you are watching, down here below. But there's actually, I have to admit, Ed, I didn't come up. There's a good pun usually if we can come up with one for the title. And of course, this one I have to admit I did not come up with. We're talking about the rich and the reckless. This really is a soap opera of federal proportions. I didn't come up with that phrase, though. That one came from E.J. Antoni and Peter St. Onge over at the Daily Caller, the rich and the reckless. But I mean, that's exactly what we're looking at here, is the lives of the rich and the reckless, doing what they do, woke investments, capital adjustment, all these different things. Exactly. And then the Biden administration coming in and bailing out the rich and the reckless, who have made all of these investments to the detriment of basic, financial policy, and then the bank goes belly up. So I've shared a couple of links down here. But one really interesting thing, of course, we've heard, like you just said, the Biden administration isn't, no bailout, no bailout. Of course it's a bailout. Look at all the nutty stuff they're doing to make it up here. The administration claims that these bailouts aren't going to cost taxpayers a penny. This is the joke, though, the punchline. These are going to be paid by a special levy, the Biden administration says, on the FDIC, bolstered by a $25 billion in freshly printed money. Freshly printed money. Based on what? What's the actual value besides this just paper that we're spitting out of machines here? It's bonkers. We are so deep into this funny money system that it's no wonder that they keep talking about this isn't, this is the 16th largest bank. Yeah, this is the second largest bank collapse in U.S. history. This is a big deal. And all we've done is just, artificially propped it up with funny money and moved on. How long until this actually crashes down on every bank?
And remember, in a very simple way, just to be simple, if I have $100 and I hand it to you, Ryan, and you say, you won't get it back for a month, I've lost the time value of the use of that money. That's actually worth something if I want to go out to dinner this weekend. And what happens in these banks, a whole bunch of depositors have lost the use of their money for a period of time. Someone needs to be, again, back to the point, need to be held accountable, and they won't be. And the idea, as you point out, that somehow this is just a bailout and we're going to somehow make money on it and it's going to be so great for everybody. Again, the real betrayal is that we don't have a set of leaders who are willing to point to the system and say, the banking system is not working. Here's another observation. The banking system, somewhat, I was not original to me. I forget now who told me or made this observation. Our banking system was set up in a time where you had to drive down or walk to the bank, show them your bank book, and get your money. Now it happens in seconds on your smartphone. And so the speed of banking and the speed of markets and the speed of everything is way off. We haven't adjusted the system. We have not adjusted our system, and our regulators haven't adjusted. Again, the new conservative movement, the sort of, I think it's MAGA, you can call it what you want, but the new conservative movement is clearly for the use of government in ways that are sane. But to say that we're regulating banks and then watch the big banks fail and the wealthy guys get bailed out and the rest of us are stuck. I know, Ryan, I shouldn't poke the bear, but you and I talk frequently. When you have a bunch of kids like you do and I do, inflation is a weekly tax. You can see it in your grocery bill. When you go to buy eggs, they're up. And actually, everyone talks about eggs. Forget eggs. Don't go buy eggs. Go buy bread. Go buy, go buy other staples. And you're like, that's weird. That bacon, I remember I figured this out. We have this big double pound, a pound and a half of bacon. They call it, it's a pound, but they call it the double pound. It's only a pound and a half, who knows, whatever. It's a big block. You buy it at the store. And it was forever. I love it. I love Get all the time. I love bacon. And it was $11.99 forever. And I was always like, it's pretty good. You know, you look at the thing and you see how much it is. It's now $19.99, knocked down to $17.99. But so it's $17.99. I'm like, what the hell happened to bacon? I mean, like, what are the pigs eating? So that's what normal people are going through. And meanwhile, the bank bailouts are happening around us. And again, there's so many systems that are like that now that government has centralized their power into Washington and expanded it so much that we're just living with and we're stuck in, and it's really bad for the country.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is not that hard for normal people to understand how this all works. When we bail out, throw money here, throw money there, freshly print money here, every little bit that we inject and move around and funny money and steal and move just makes everyone's dollar go less far each and every day, not even each and every week. It's not that complicated for people to understand. So we have to know they're lying to us. But that brings us to, and I just want to ask you real quick on one thing before we try to wrap it up here. One interesting connection into this, of course, we talk about Biden and Schumer have connections into the SVB assets and different things that they're doing. Here's my question. So I'm going to post a couple as you answer this, a couple of comments. James Comer is starting to release some details this week, saying that the House Oversight Committee has their eye on 6 or 7 Biden family members who really have been involved in foreign business schemes for profit while their father was in office. And the absolute it's unquestionable, the timing of money coming into the bank accounts and then their dad being in or out of office is just so unquestionable. And then the Treasury Department stonewalling the House Oversight Committee for the first time ever in the way that they did, not letting them have access to reports of suspicious activity, not even just like, give us this person's bank account. No, we want your suspicious activity reports to come over here so that we can review them. And all of a sudden we say, oh, well, no, it's a suspicious activity report, but I'm not going to give you that. Are you kidding me? Provide this to the House Oversight Committee. I know you, for those of our watchers who don't know here, you're in D.C., you're in the D.C. area.
Correct.
What do you know from this? Do you have any inside information as to what's actually coming down the pike? Because I see something like this. We're closing in on 6 or 7 family members. We're getting very close to Joe Biden, James Comer says. Well, I would love for that to be true, that we are closing in on some massive government corruption scheme centered around one family who is centralized in power. But is this for real? Is anything actually going to come of this or not?
I'm not sure I can answer that yet, but I will say that the approach has been serious and methodical. And to your point, I was up yesterday in a set of meetings with Congressman Gates and then also MTG, their staffs. And those two have been, somewhat, gadflies, and sometimes they're poking at the Republicans. They're very happy with the progress. So it's systematic. They're trying to plod their way through and not do this only in sound bites. I get a little frustrated. I'm with you. I thought, when you and I talk offline about, are they really doing anything? Are they really going to step up? I'm disappointed. In the last couple of days, there's been articles about, I think some of the Judiciary Committee guys are not stepping up on big tech, not using all the tools to take on big tech. I'm disappointed in that, but that's, again, it's not totally surprising in terms of the amount of influence and money that you see, follow the money, the big tech influence. But on the oversight stuff and Comer, as you point out, Congressman Comer from Kentucky, I think they're being methodical. I think they are getting to the bottom of it. I think with the Hunter Biden, it's all there, right? I mean, the thing that's going on now is here's how you can tell there's something happening. The leak, the article, the coverage, I'll say that, of the fact that there has been subpoenas of financial institutions asking about Hunter Biden's money. That news came from a letter from the Democrat ranking member, Jamie Raskins, to the chair. Now, the chair, Comer, is, half a block down the hallway in the same building. So Raskin is sending that letter and releasing it to the press to tell the press, ask about subpoenas. The subpoenas aren't public. You don't publish a subpoena. So you wouldn't know that, except he's doing that. He's doing that to try to get attention on that. That's as the quote that I just was reading of Phyllis Schlafly about, only 1/9 of politics is above, like an iceberg. 8/9 are below the waterline. Yeah. I think Comer is doing quite a bit more. The very simple question that we should all be asking ourselves. Let me admit two things. When you saw the run-up to the Hillary Clinton presidential run, and you realized that the Clinton Foundation was being used as a money laundering entity where foreign businesses and foreign nations who wanted to curry favor with who they thought would be the next president, they put the money into the Clinton Foundation, right? And it wasn't illegal. It should have been more of a story. Some of it may have been illegal, but mostly it wasn't illegal because of the way they structured it. They always have good lawyers, the left, but it should have been an absolute scandal for the media, but they wouldn't cover her. The same thing happened to Biden. As soon as Biden was out as vice president, he went from being a relatively wealthy. He had a couple $1 million, which you can ask how he got that, being a senator on $180,000 a year, for 25 or 30 years. As soon as he's out of the White House, at a VP slot, he's making tens of millions of dollars a year. He's buying home here, home there, here a home, there a home, and clearly Hunter and the brothers and the sister, Joe Biden's got 2 brothers and a sister, all are in the game at this level. And so they're just churning the money, especially because Joe Biden was quickly saying he was going to run for president. And so as a friend of mine, Ralph Reed once said, Ralph, of course, Ryan, Ralph Reed once said, in a primary, we have to have conservatives for every candidate. So whoever rises up, you can have some of our people who care about life and family and all in there. And so that's what the foreign nationals and the foreign corporations and the big business, they're investing in Biden and they're investing in Kamala, whatever. And so Biden made tons of money. That's one. The second is, it's pretty obvious from the Hunter Biden laptop. We can track what Hunter was doing. I don't think actually Hunter was doing anything illegal. My gut is he was doing it legal. It's just a scandal, and it's compromising the president. And it's absolutely positively the greatest conflict of interest to have this happening. Right. And what I think is clear is Joe Biden knew. And so, but again, I'm pretty confident, Ryan, that the Comer, they're being methodical, and we're seeing 1/9 of the iceberg, and there's a lot going on below surface.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that anyone who's been paying attention has a pretty decent amount of faith that this Congress is going to be willing, this House is going to be willing to actually, when the rubber meets the road, stick with the hard things. I mean, we saw that in the speaker fight, and great results have come out of the speaker fight. Kevin McCarthy has followed his word, and the Freedom 20 have actually stuck to their principles. So I think that we've got a lot of good chance here. Well, we'll wrap it up there, because I know that we try to keep these to about under a half hour. So I'll leave us with one little bit of wisdom. You mentioned Biden, we just talked about Biden running for president, the influence coming up to that. The new argument isn't that Joe Biden is powerful. He is a magnificent leader. Let me tell you, this is why everyone should vote for Joe Biden. According to Nancy Pelosi, he's a magnificent leader, she says. And she doesn't understand why everyone's so concerned about the fact that he's ancient. She says he's wonderful. I don't know what the problem is. He's younger than I am. To which the internet responded, Nancy, I don't think that means what you think it means. This now makes us wonder about you. So it was just, oh my gosh, the watching of this. This is her pitch. This is the early pitch for Nancy Pelosi supporting Joe Biden in 2024, is that he's a wonderful leader. He's younger than I am, so I don't know what the problem is. I think that they're going to manage to take a shotgun, which I know Joe Biden, that's his favorite gun. They're going to manage to take a shotgun to their foot this year, hopefully, in all of the ridiculous things they're going to do and say to make him the next nominee. So we will see how that goes. But thank you, Ed, for joining us. Thank you, everyone else, for being here. Appreciate you coming on. And don't forget, everyone, like, share, and subscribe. But mainly, go over to the website, phyllisschlafly.com, that little banner. Sign up for the email list. I will send you an email every Thursday and let you know that this is going on. And Ed sends you an email every weekday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. And it's just got 6 links and a couple of quick things you need to know. It is one of the best resources out there via email. Do that. Big Tech can't censor it. And we will look forward to talking to you again long form in another Unauthorized Caucus next Thursday. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Ed, again, for being here. We'll see everyone next Thursday at noon.
Good job.
Thanks.
Great.